And we are live.
Oh, barely. I swear to God. This has been.
No, I just said live. I didn't say alive.
Right.
Because I'm still
Or
dead
awake
inside.
either. Yeah, or awake either.
I'm getting there.
What day? We know it's Monday.
Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, October 3rd, 2022, and you are watching the Ragin to the vlogs.
Oi.
All right.
Yeah.
You ready for this shit?
No, but press the button anyway.
Hey, I'm giving us this too from now on. Watch this.
Okay.
The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or Ragin 2 Promotion.
Why you should pick up a copy of There's Nita in My Toilet, book number 3, I Chihuahua, today. I hope you'll join all of the others. Pick up a copy today.
Oh, hello there. You just caught me in the middle of making a drink. While I'm doing that, here's a disembodied voice that'll talk to you about what this commercial is about.
Thanks, sellout me. Shots with Comics is a podcast with artists and writers Chad Perkins, Kit Bonitis Jaspering, and Blake Matthias. They'll give you a brutally honest review of the comics they are reading. Do they love it? Do they hate it? They'll tell you while drinking their traumas away. If this sounds terrible, then join us at Monday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Indie Comics Podcast Network for this aggressive comedy review show and sellout commercial.
Oh, these commercials kill me. But as always, if you're interested in there's an alien in my toilet. I think it has 17 more days to go. Links will be in the show notes. On
Indie Comics Promotions and probably in the chat in just a minute.
Right, yeah, once my Jimmy wakes up. So, oh my goodness. So welcome everybody to another episode of the Ragin to the Vlogs show. My name is Daphne Lage, and I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, and comic book artist from New York. Oh, where's my setup? Here it is. I've been self-publishing since 1992, and I am known for the furry fantasy adventure Tall Tales and my medieval fantasy soap opera drama, Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, which is now in pre-launch. Yes, I know the body's not even cold, but everything is at the printers and I need something to do. So I might as well just point everybody to the launch page for issue 5, launching November 7th. So there's still some time. You can read both my comics online at Tall Tales, TAILS online.com and eagleworks.com. And you can check out all my videos on how I make my comics here on YouTube at Daphne Lage Art, which also simulcasts through the Indie Comics Network. So, speaking of that.
Oh, yo.
Take it away.
I'm trying to post some links, Daphne.
Oh, okay.
So my name is
Yeah.
Nita Lanning. I'm a writer, vlogger, blogger. I am owner and CEO of Ragin 2 Promotions, the parent company that brings you Indie Comics Network on YouTube and Indie Comics Promotions on Facebook.
So welcome everybody who's in the chat. So while Nita is furiously posting to other places, I want to just say hello to Marvi, to John Celestri, and Nita, who is posting links in our own chat. So if you want to check out There's an Alien in My Toilet, the direct link is in the chat as well. And also I want to welcome the 3 people who are watching us from regions beyond. You know, so if you're watching us from Twitter, if you're watching us from Facebook, come on over to YouTube, join the sexy people in the chat, hit the like, share, subscribe button, the whole 9 yards, you know, hit the notification bell. Oh, hey, Joe, hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time we go live. And usually about every day we have something going live on this channel. So there we have it. Do we have any
Got a little bit of housekeeping,
right?
Not a whole lot, because pre-launch Ego Raven, we talked about it.
Links,
Do it.
Yeah,
Links everywhere.
Yeah, last I checked, I just want to thank the 38 people who have signed up already for the pre-launch. So thank you.
All right. And also in pre-launch, we have our very own Chad Perkins, the Legend of the Sparkle Dog. Don't say a woo. Right. And this is coming sometime this month. It's about a kid that finds a fursuit and the horrors ensue. And after reading his book, Blue Lullaby, I totally recommend getting on board for this one. Right. Let's see what we got.
And if you missed who Chad is, he's the guy dressed as a pickle.
Yeah, he's the pickle boy.
He's the pickle boy.
I'm sorry. He's the pickle man.
Oh yes. Pickle man, Dad.
He may look like a whole ass infant, but he's a grown man. Wow. Chad should be fired, but he's here, so whatever.
He keeps coming back, though.
He just keeps coming back. He just keeps coming back.
Fine. We'll leave food out for you.
you can hang out on the porch.
Yeah. Right.
Also, coming this Thursday, Rodney Fike and Sean Fornery are bringing us a brand new show, Thursday Night Throwdown. It's a draw stream with interviews and just random chit chat, and I think they're going to actually keep it themed. So beginning this month, it's going to be a spooky type horror theme, for October.
Yes.
Right. And don't damage books and shit. Use coupon code Ragin2 with the Gemini Comics.
Ragin
10. Fuck. See. Thank you. This is why you're here, Daphne. 10. Ragin 10. That's 8 more.
Yes,
that's 8 more % than we once could offer you, which actually it was 5. So I don't know why the code was ever 2, but it's 10 now. So rate in 10.
There we go. Okay. Look at that. We got a promotion all in one.
I know, right? Questions, comments, complaints, whatever. Recommendations for show ideas or show topics on any of the shows you find across the network. Just email us at raginabc@gmail.com and we might respond to you.
You're right. Most likely we will. Like I said, it's like
no. Here's the thing. I always respond because my thing is you're shit for customer service. If you can't give somebody 30 seconds of your fucking day, then fuck you.
Right. Well, hey. Although, as somebody who doesn't check my friend request list,
that's different. That's different. Your Saudi prince will find you one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. I know, for real. Oh my goodness. So it's been a busy weekend. So what have you been up to, Nita?
I have been organizing and redoing show notes and getting intros ready. So
just
editing,
cool. Right?
A lot of editing.
Oh yeah, and just for everybody to know, might as well. I'm going to mention again later. We are not going to have a show on Friday. Me and JD have some things to take care of. So we're not going to panic. Don't panic. Yeah,
don't panic. We didn't break up.
Right. Exactly. So it's like Jesus. So we're not going to have a show on Friday because of that. Because that's just how we roll here. If we can't do it, we're not going to do it. So, you know, so like I said, it's been a very busy weekend. Like I said, it's like now it's like I'm in that quiet period where everything is at the printers, and now it's just waiting. You know, it's like I got my boxes. I had to like kind of pretend I was doing something by folding boxes, you know, for a bit.
Just look busy. Just
Yeah,
look
exactly.
busy.
You know, so I had to do some adjustments on some proofs for another proof that I'm putting together that I'm more than excited to show everybody, but not gonna mention what it is until I get it.
Ooh.
Yeah, everything is kind of scheduled. It is on schedule to deliver mid to late October. So so like I said, now it's just really quiet, just waiting for everything to come in. And so because of that, I get to think about, okay, what we're doing for the next campaign. Like I said, I already have the pre-launch page up, and like I said, last I checked, I had 38 followers on the pre-launch page. Like I said, thank you very much for everybody who are like really looking forward to the next issue. It's going to be for issues 1 through 5, the individual issues, and the trade paperback is going to be available on it. Everything is going to be available on it, and it's like I'm just like trying to get all this work inked and what for the flatters. Got to keep her busy too. But yeah, it's like it just doesn't stop, right? Yeah, I know. But it's hey Rob, how you doing? Oh yes, and if you're looking for even more campaigns, Rob Multari's Snowpaw also on Kickstarter. I think it has like 10 days left or something, or a little bit more. I know it's like it was a shorter campaign.
No, he's still got 16 days, Daphne.
Oh, 16 days. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. You have more than enough time, but why wait? Go see Snowpaw on
You want to anyway, because Rob is steadily offering new backer incentives.
Right,
So
yeah.
there's milestones for extra comics, free comics, and right now a physical cover through the full moon. So
Ooh, yeah.
definitely head over there and check it out.
Yeah, exactly. So links, show notes in the chat, wherever there's links somewhere. So yes. And also speaking of John Celestri, we also have Bloodwing Angel.
Wing Angel.
Which is also on Kickstarter as well. So we're going to be, so links will be somewhere for that too.
Where the hell is Mike Jimmy this morning? He's
I know, really. It's like, yeah. We're going to have to put out 2 dishes on the back porch.
Oh my gosh.
But so I guess kind of like as an extension of the conversation that we were having on Friday. Like I said, it just seems to be kind of like a weird transition for everybody, because I guess what it is that as the year gets closer to the holidays, campaigns are kind of feeling like they're getting like a little tougher and tougher to get over that hump. And it's like, and the thing is, though, it's happening to so many people that it's like, okay, maybe this is kind of like an overall trend that needs to kind of be expected. That it's like, yeah, it's like, you know what? It's like, Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas is coming up. Everybody's already beginning to really, think about what they're going to be doing for the holidays. And sometimes crowdfunding is not on that list. So, so of course, this is making me paranoid for my next campaign. And I had learned
much love, Jody.
Yes, thank you, Jody. I had learned something pretty interesting this weekend. So JD listens to Larry. He does Niobe. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. Yeah, I know. You see, speaking of, it's like, yeah, it's like it looked a little dicey there for a minute, but it's like, you know what? It's like, yeah, it's like you just kind of have to change your trajectory a bit, and all of a sudden, that's the little bit that counts. So that's why it's always important to constantly follow like what's going on, paying attention to the trends on Kickstarter. What, it's like how.
And most importantly, do not surrender. When you are in that fucking plateau, the worst thing you can do is go silent.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like
I've seen so many campaigns just die off because somebody hit that fucking bump and they're just like,
they become so frustrated and despondent that they
like,
just
well, whatever happens, happens. No, bitch, fucking work for it.
Right,
Shape
yeah.
that thing.
Right, exactly.
Show us what you're working with.
Right, no, exactly. I mean, it's like this is kind of like the part where it's like you have to double down. I mean, it's like, look, you're in the campaign. Short of canceling your campaign, you have to do something.
Right.
Right. So, so that's why it's really important to look at what's out there and what the trends are, what seems to be, like, okay, or it's like, what, sometimes you just have to expect that sometimes you have to accept the fact that sometimes your stuff is so niche that it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
For you to kind of find your audience.
Right.
I mean, it's like if you.
And then even then, do you ever really find your audience aside from the few regulars? Do you feel there's a certain demographic? Can you go down a checklist and be, oh, well, this person's going to like Ego Raven?
Right. I can't even answer that.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, who's my demographic? I mean, I would have to really go through. I mean, this is something that I've been meaning to do, where it's like kind of like go through everybody who's backed my campaigns and kind of like try to do a breakdown. It's like, okay, who's buying this?
Right, because like if I would have had to have guessed, I would have thought it would have been, mid-20s to mid-30s female, but that's not the case at all because the majority of people I talk to that have actually read your book are male.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's not that simple. Yeah. So it's kind of like, not that simple to kind of figure out. It's like, okay, who is my audience? You know what? I have people. People are my audience.
That's it.
You either like it or you don't.
So you just keep going until you find a couple new ones every time.
Right. Exactly. But there was some. So like I said, so JD was listening to Larry of Niobe on his podcast, and he had this person on who had the position, like his job was what he would do. Like, I guess he's a graphic designer or whatnot, and what he does is that he helps people put together Kickstarters, put together graphics or whatnot for their campaigns or whatnot, and he does a lot of the back end stuff too. He puts together, and what was funny was that he realized. Oh, well, yeah, I know. It's a little, it's kind of weird because that's kind of like where JD falls to when it comes to the Oswald Chronicles. We go to conventions and it's like, you would think he was doing a shoujo manga with the amount of, these teen girls that keep coming to the table. So yeah,
we're going to get to this, Jody.
What was the question? Right. Well, that's actually,
no.
Well, I mean, it's like that in and of itself could be an episode. And the thing is, though, it's like, we have a guest coming up, in the next, in the last half hour. So let me just get my thought out. But we will put a pin in that thought.
Definitely put a pin in that one.
Because it's like, that's a thing that I've been trying to figure out myself, so what this person who was seeing all these back ends, right? So of course, Larry, being kind of the smart ass that he is, he just outright asks, okay, he just points to the elephant in the room. It's like, come on. It's like, tell me the truth. It's titty books that sell on this shit, right? It's like, on Kickstarter, that's what's really selling, right? I mean, it's like, we're not hallucinating this. And the guy goes, yeah, that's what's selling, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I found interesting, right? So he says that he's seen all these different campaigns, as far as I can tell, pretty much unrelated to each other, except that they sell, like similar items or whatnot. But what he's seeing is the same people backing a lot of these campaigns. He's literally seeing the same names.
So we're not hallucinating a circle
Right.
jerk.
Well, you know,
Wait, no. Whoa.
a very dedicated audience.
Dedicated audience. Dedicated audience.
We are talking about, yes, there is a very dedicated audience on Kickstarter that is just large enough that it's actually affecting the selling environment of comics Kickstarter. That's the thing. When I was talking when JD was telling me about this, I don't remember how he came up with the number 800. But that number had come up in conversation. Now, I'm not saying that there's 800 people
Right.
who are pretty much pushing this narrative on crowdfunding, that it's like if you put out a nude cover or a sexy cover or something, they will be there. But that was kind of like the implication of the conversation, that you have this very, very dedicated group
right,
that support these types of books. And then everybody else is so divided up into niches that it's not enough to compete with these people.
right.
In terms of affecting like what the overall trend is on crowdfunding. And I found that really fascinating and horrifying at the same time. Because it's kind of like, if you think about it as the 80-20 rule, 20% of, that 20% of your audience is making up 80% of your income, or, around that type of thing. And to think that this 20% is what's kind of setting the tone for selling comics on Kickstarter. And the thing is, though, this is something that we've always suspected. We've always kind of side-eyed. It's like, don't say you didn't do that. But at the same time, it was kind of nice to have it confirmed. And now the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, what do we do with this information?
Show titties.
Well, you see, but that's the thing, though, because it's like, that's something that's not necessarily.
No, it's really not. That was sarcasm. It really was.
And it's like, and in the end, it's like, it's not something that's kind of fair to demand from creators. Like, I
absolutely not.
Absolutely cannot go to Sam and go, okay, Sam.
You know his duty's booty.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, you cannot do that.
No, you cannot do that.
I mean, and it's very unfair, and the thing is, what that does too is that it also makes it, it's like, there was this conversation that about, like all ages books, like how they're such a hard sell, and it's like, well, because in the end, you're competing with these 800 people who all they want to do is buy nude covers.
Right.
They want to buy the sexy books. They want to buy, and your audience is somewhere in that 80% that's sliced up into all of these deli meat, slices that are just like so thin that it's like I said, they can't compete with that. And yeah, exactly. And what that, and also that was mentioned too, that now that what that has caused is kind of like an arms race as to who can get the best artists to do these covers.
Right.
And it's just, and like I said, it's like, okay, it's confirmed, right? This is what's going on. This is the overall trend on Kickstarter. The question is, what do we do with this information? How does somebody, it's like, and we were talking, it's like, how does somebody like Sam, how does somebody like John Celestri, how does somebody, who is doing an all ages book, how do they maneuver in a market where this is kind of, where this is the dominant, I guess, like the dominant the market, it's like, yeah, this is kind of like, this is what these people are are kind of pushing. But the thing is, though, is that it's just because they kind of control the narrative doesn't mean that it's completely the narrative. So,
no.
Yeah. So, like I said, so with my next campaign, me personally, I'm able to take advantage of this. In fact, it's like I'm in the process of making another variant cover for my next campaign. Will it work? I don't know. Because also the same thing too is that these people also, they have a taste for particular visuals, particular artists, and so it's like, well, but you know what? I can afford to throw that against the wall, so, I can try that. You say, okay, I have this information. And last night I came up with the idea. I go, Nita, I need to do one more variant cover. I have 3 already coming up on the next campaign, but I need to do another one using the information that I have now. But other people don't have that luxury, but again, it's kind of like, what are your options? Well, homage covers are popular. You don't necessarily have to do a nude cover. Homage covers, you're hitting a different demographic. You're going for like the nostalgia factor, right? You have the people who they like to collect more manga type of
aesthetics,
books.
like manga inspired covers and
whatnot.
It's like,
it's like, make it pretty, make it cute, make it, it's kind of like, we were explaining how it's like there's kind of like a gauge that we're seeing. So it's like you either go to cute, you're either doing cute, you're doing pretty. So cute, pretty, sexy, or just straight
sexy.
Out.
Right.
So it's like that's kind of the gauge that we're seeing, so it's like, so it's not all about catering to the nude cover market. There are kind of other places where you can play around with it. Granted, if selling these types of covers, and that's the thing too, it requires a lot of navel gazing, because a lot of us just want to say, look, we just want people to read our comic, right? Which is a nice sentiment, it's very nice. It's like, yes, I would just love to be able to put my comic out and be done with it, and it's just like, here it is, and people will just buy it. But we all know that's not what it is. That's not what happens. It's like, we have to figure out what bait can we use to get those people in, to attract people who wouldn't normally look at your stuff, but because you're using particular imagery, a particular artistic aesthetic, that they'll click on your campaign, and then it's like, well, while I'm here, let me see what's here.
Yeah, that's it.
And
it sounds horrible to say bait them into opening, but that's what you've got to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You've got to get their attention. You have to stand out in this market.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, that's kind of, because you remember, people are finding your campaign through a thumbnail.
Right.
It's one image. So you really have to think about what image. I mean, granted, maybe it's not necessarily representing your book, but you know what? We're talking about people, I think by now everyone's kind of used to the cover not matching the interiors, because everyone's kind of so used to the variant cover thing. But you know what? It's like, sometimes you kind of have to get a little bit out of your wheelhouse in terms of what you're selling, in order to create an image that'll bring people in and have them actually pay attention to your book. So on that note, I'm going to end it at that. So like I said, everybody just, really have to think of, again, it's like, what are you doing with this information? What can you do with this information? So on that note, like I said, we have some guests coming in. So we're going to throw a couple of bumps, and we're going to talk about Frankenstein the Unconquered. So stay tuned.
Hi, I am Joe D. McPhee. I am the host of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher, and I want to cordially invite you to watch our show Saturdays at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. On our show, we will have different guests as well as talk about the comic book industry and pop culture. And every so often, I might actually do a drawing session or a 3D rendering session every here and there. So once again, I want to invite you to watch From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher right here on the broadcast channel that you're looking at, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Hope to see you there, and make certain that you catch From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks.
It's Monty Moore. I'm a 30-year comics veteran in comics, games, and movies, and you've been watching one of my absolute favorite podcasts, Catch the Craze.
You are watching Catch the Craze.
What am I listening to?
And you're listening to Catch the Craze.
Where are all the indies at?
A Catch the Craze podcast. What are you watching?
I'm watching Catch the Craze.
What are you going to do?
Subscribe now to Catch the Craze, the #1 show online for independent.
Have you subscribed to?
You are an independent. Catch the Craze! Making moves on your own. Catch the Craze! On your grind in the streets. Catch the Craze! Join the movement. Catch the Craze!
Yum.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, a two.
Hey. It is early in the morning. I was not expecting that much energy.
Well, I know we try. It's like, look, we don't like it being early in the morning either. Technically, it's brunch time, but hey, the waking up part, that's hard. So welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourselves to the peoples?
Hello. My name is Wells Thompson. I'm a comic writer, co-writer of Frankenstein, the Unconquered, which is what we're talking about here today, as well as Mechaton, Descent into Dread, a bunch of short stories and a bunch of anthologies, and some upcoming stuff as well. But that's mostly what I do is write.
Yeah. And I am Dalton Shannon, co-writer of most of what he just said.
We work together a lot.
Yeah, just writing comics and drawing doodles and whatever else floats the fancy. Everything comic books.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So being co-writers, I mean, what does that mean anyway? I mean, because that's something that I see a lot, but it's like, how does that happen?
So basically, I write a word on a piece of paper and I mail it to him in Green Bay. He writes another word and we mail it back and forth until we have a script.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. That's simple. It must take a very long time.
UPS hasn't let us down just yet.
No, we started working together in college just as friends, as collaborators. We were in the same writing classes together. We enjoyed each other's company, and eventually it just became clear that we kind of even each other out in very useful ways. Some of the stuff I'm weaker at, he was able to cover. Some of the stuff he's weaker at, I was able to cover. And eventually we made each other stronger as well. So it was a really fruitful partnership in that way as well. But yeah, no, Dalton got me into wanting to write comics in the first place. And we've been just kind of trading story ideas. And when one sticks around, generally someone will write a first draft, pass it to the other one, we'll improve upon it or rewrite it or do whatever we need to do. And then we kind of hammer it back and forth until we have something we're both really proud of.
Yeah. So Dalton's the one that dragged you into this mess.
Kicking and screaming, yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how it happens. So Dalton, so we're going to start with you with that. So what got you into comics, into doing comics?
Like most people, superheroes. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with the Batman and Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons that were on TV. Had all the toys and the encyclopedias and all sorts of stuff. But when I was 8, I saw an issue of Spider-Man with a John Romita Jr. cover on a spinner rack, and I was like, "Oh, what is that? That's Spider-Man. I know what that is." And I was like, "What's a comic book? This is so cool!" And then I didn't ever really look back. It was all comics from there on out. I was like, "You mean I don't just have to catch Spider-Man on TV? I can just read this all the time?" And just been reading comics ever since. And that same year, I found the Captain Underpants line of novels, where 2 8-year-old boys make their own comic books. And I was like, hey, that's literally me. I can do that. and I just started writing and drawing my own books, and I haven't stopped. And it's led to this unfortunate set of circumstances. But we're making do with what we have. Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be quite a jump. It's John Romita Jr. Spider-Man, but it was Captain Underpants that put a nail in that coffin.
It was that series of novels, for one, is actually like pretty well written for children's books. It's full of toilet humor, all the best kind of stuff, but it actually like shows you like the hand-drawn pages, and like they even had like little books on how to make your own comics through Captain Underpants. Like that, the humor spoke to the 8-year-old in me, and then like the juvenile craft on display spoke to the OCD kid inside of me. I was like, oh, that's great, I can do that.
Right. So Wells, so I'm assuming that you didn't have a comic book background until this point.
So
or am I
like
what's
not
your
a
journey?
I didn't have like a spinner rack or a comic book shop that I went to or anything like that. I read a couple of graphic novels in high school, and I was always vaguely aware of the platform, and like superhero shows growing up for me, Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock, things like that were obviously really big. But comics, like I kind of came into writing wanting to do novels, wanting to do short stories, and I'm still a little bit in denial about that. Like, yeah, one day I'll get back to that.
All right.
But after meeting Dalton, he had some great ideas, and he was very focused about like, no, it's comics all the way. And so I was like, okay, let me take a crack at this, and started writing a little bit. And as a result of that, I said, I really need a bigger background in this if I'm gonna presume to be someone who writes these stories. I need to understand the craft a little bit better. So I got a job with Comic Book Yeti as a reviewer. And eventually became their review editor, but read a ton of great indie books, like By the Horns and Coffin Bound, and just so many like really overly interesting, like super creative creator-owned stuff that just made me fall in love with the genre, the platform as a whole.
Right. So, I mean, I find that, interesting that it's like, so in the end, it was independent comics that really.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's, so okay. So you merge your powers together, you fight crime. So how did you decide? It's like, okay, we're going to do a comic. Now we have to find the other half. We have to, find, okay, how do we find artists? So how did you guys decide how, where to find your artist and how you found your artist?
It was very apparent from the get-go that neither of us could draw worth a damn. So that was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah.
But we actually started off making ash cans where we both wrote them, and then I drew them, and we like hand stapled them and took them to conventions. And that brazen naivete actually led us to
it's
meeting.
Beautiful though. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's awesome. I love it.
I'll say for very amateur, artists, drawing and lettering and putting together their own comics, they aren't bad. Like Dalton always talks about them like we're ashamed of them, but we still cart them out at conventions and stuff.
I mean,
it's a cool thing.
It really is, and I really do think it's really like you just want to come out of the woodwork and see if you can you have you can do this in ash can, you do a zine. That's kind of like, you can't get any cheaper than that.
No.
Have access to a Xerox machine will travel.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And what was funny is like the way we came across that was I had gone to Dragon Con for the first time like the year before we started doing this. And as we were talking about like, we could do comics, I was like, what I've never what I really wanted to see at Dragon Con that I didn't get to see is just like, what if every comic or what if every booth had like a $1, very short comic. And I didn't realize
I always recommend that. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was like stumbling onto zine culture. I didn't know that was a thing. So we just kind of reinvented the wheel in that regard, but it totally worked out. We wound up going to Wizard World New Orleans and meeting with a editor there by mistake. Just we happened to be next to them. We showed them the books, and they were like, "Yeah, the stories are really good. The art needs improvement." And so they gave us, they kind of kickstarted us by being like, okay, well, we know a couple of artists. If you want to get in contact with them and turn these stories into like actual, like really, really well drawn, fully fledged comics, then we will, we're not going to guarantee anything, but we may publish the result. And that turned into Descent to Dread. They did, in fact, publish the result. That was our first kind of mainstream published comic, was a horror anthology with all of our, well, not all of our, but a bunch of our 8-page shorts that we sort of worked on together in that first year of just like trying to do something and make a name for ourselves, and like I said, reinvent zine culture by mistake.
But really though, I mean, that I recommend that for everybody at a convention. Have a dollar book on your table, because then it's like you get you get those cheap asses who want to walk past you, but it's like, look, don't tell me you don't have $1. Don't
Amen.
Me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but with that, with the anthology, I mean, we got to. Frank started off as Ash Cans, and then Frank got a facelift in the book. And in the book, we actually met our series artist, Mary Landro, through the Descent into Dread. She wasn't drawing Frankenstein, but her style fit it so well that we were like, we have to work with Mary again. Right. And she's been super excited about the book, which is so great. She's like, I never get to draw this stuff. This is awesome. And then, of course, we met Dahlia and Nathan by scrounging Twitter and making friends. Nathan actually letters our other book, Mechaton. He's a joy to work with, makes our words look so much better than they are, I think. And Dahlia's colors really make Mary's art just pop. It's so great.
Yeah, and speaking of Frankenstein, Nita, bring up the campaign, because I am actually pretty fascinated by this.
Please.
Because it's like, for a little while there was that whole trend with people just grabbing any random, like public domain story and putting zombies in it and calling it a day, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is probably the first time I've seen something like this where the transition actually makes sense to me.
Oh, good. It makes sense to someone. Good. Okay.
Right.
Good.
It's like that's the thing. It's like, wait a minute. It's like, you have Frank. It's like, one, I love the name Frankenstein and the Unconquered. And the thing is, and then it's like I go into the campaign and it's kind of like a Frankenstein Conan type of thing.
Absolutely.
And I go, yeah, that's exactly how it would go. It's like, like it didn't feel like Pride and Prejudice and zombies,
Right.
It's like, okay, please, where do the zombies come from? That's very shoehorned, but this kind of feels more in context. So can you tell me about the process that kind of led you to this? One, what made you choose Frankenstein out of everything that's public domain, as opposed to, like, I don't know, The Great Gatsby, and and then running with this theme that you have in the campaign right now?
Oh man, Barbarian Gatsby sounds dope.
I was gonna say, first of all, Jay Gatsby Zombie Slayer definitely on
Yeah, Frankenstein. I've always loved the Universal horror monsters. Karloff's Frankenstein, Lugosi's Dracula, Chaney's Wolfman. I grew up watching those films, and so they're just a permanent part of my subconscious. Like, they live rent free there all the time. So Frank was just something that really appealed to me aesthetically and thematically. Like, dude just looks cool. And I think the original idea was like a cosmic Frankenstein, where he's kind of like zooming around space with like an old 50s like bubble helmet and a giant sword and a ray gun and fighting things. But then that image of like the long hair and the broadsword really stuck. And I was like, that's Conan. I was like, that's just Conan the Barbarian. I was like, whoa, wait, okay. Frank as Conan just writes itself. Like, you can just have him fighting monsters and swinging a sword and causing all sorts of problems. And that's kind of where the genesis of the idea came from. But then I brought it to Wells, and he was like, that's stupid. Of course we have to do that. And, and then Wells was able to take that nascent idea of like sword monster and kind of extrapolating from the novel and pulling out those the themes and kind of running through it and giving it something that has more weight than just the aesthetics would imply.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No, yeah, he came to me with it, and my first kind of thought was, okay, how does this justify existing? Because I have the same kind of reaction as you, Daphne, of like when I see someone just like pulling a public domain character out and being like, here's my take on it. On the one hand, there's a level of like creativity there that I really enjoy. And on the other hand, you have things like that Winnie the Pooh slasher movie that to me feels like not just cynical, but like a complete step in the wrong direction for the character. Like, why are we doing this to poor Winnie the Pooh? And to all of our childhoods. But as we talked kind of more about what Frankenstein was and how, like, as I mentioned before, I came up wanting to do novels, and so I was extremely familiar with the source material. I love the original novel, and a lot of those, like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dracula, like those early Gothic kind of monster novels are brilliant in so many ways, and I wanted to kind of be able to capture that same atmosphere and sort of those themes that they were exploring. And it became really apparent really quickly that this would be a strong way to do so. I think that sort of the genesis of Frankenstein as Conan was an extrapolation of, well, what would it's 500 years in the future, Frankenstein is thawed from the ice. What happens? And kind of the logical conclusion is things don't go very well. And as much as, in the novel, he sort of presents himself as a tragic figure who's wronged at every turn, he's also pretty indiscriminate about using violence to his advantage, or even just because he wants to. He doesn't really have that strong of a moral compass, and so even if he claims to at times. So putting him in a situation where that's an advantage, potentially, was really compelling and had a lot of meat to it.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And also I really love the way that, like, aesthetically you really committed to like this old timey pulp
Yes.
novel look to the entire campaign. Like even your variant covers, like they
Yeah.
still fit thematically with the, like it doesn't you don't have all of a sudden, not that there's anything wrong with chibi covers, I love chibi covers, but it's not like all of a sudden you have like this really cartoon manga style thing that's a little jarring, thematically, that you were just really committed to the visuals. Now, is that something that you deliberately decided to do?
Absolutely. We knew that pulp was like kind of what we were drawing on for all this, both in the sense of like that's sort of where like Boris Karloff, Frankenstein lives, and sort of those monster movies sort of exist in the same space as those like early pulp comics, but also Conan the Barbarian very much fits that aesthetic. And given that we were calling so hard on both of those, it was kind of a natural lane to put them in. And like you said, we didn't want to do a cover or something that wasn't true to what the book was trying to do thematically and visually. As much as I love reinventing, what the book can look like, I'm also I don't want to like mislead people about what's inside the book by putting up a cover that, like you said, like a chibi cover would be fun, but probably not so much for this book. Maybe for...
You're telling me you wouldn't love a Scotty Young variant where Frankenstein is just going crazy, I Hate Fairyland style? That would be great. What are you talking about?
Look at that, a scholar and a gentleman. Look at that.
For our all ages book for Mechaton, absolutely I would do a chibi cover. But also for Mechaton, I probably wouldn't do that not safe for work variant. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense.
There has to have a context, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, obviously, you're not having a problem funding this campaign.
Well,
So it's like 16 days to go, almost 300 backers. Wow.
That backer count is high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, were you kind of like, was that a surprise to you, or you've kind of been building your audience for?
No, they're going to be arrogant. No, they knew it. It's like
right. They knew it.
I love when a plan comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
It was a bit of both. It was a bit of that was strange. It was a bit of both. Like we knew we had been building our audience. We had a little over 300 backers for the last Frankenstein campaign. We with a little bit under the number that you're seeing now, like 72 some odd, 7,200 ish. We didn't know it was gonna blow up this quickly, though. The 300 backers took us 30 whole days to get to, and now we're sitting on day 14. Like it's been 2 weeks, and we're almost at that number now. We got funded almost not immediately, but within the first 3 days, which is way faster than any other campaign we've done so far. So we were fingers crossed, hoping that this would be the campaign that popped off, and it did so in a very big way. Hopefully that's just as much us preparing for it and building our audience.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
But a little combination of both, probably. Now here's the thing, though. So you have this other book called Mechaton, and it seems to be like looking at your list here of campaigns that you've done. It's like night and day. Frankenstein, Mechaton. I mean, it's like thematically it's different. It's more like Mechaton is more like an anime, I guess, like
for sure.
Adventure type of comic. I mean, I'm assuming it's an all ages comic.
Yes.
And it's like, so is that something? So are you still continuing with that, like, what's it like jumping back and forth between these two different, like these two opposite themes?
It's a lot of fun.
Right.
It's actually more seamless than it might seem, mostly because of the Kickstarter format allows us to really take our time, so we're not having to like double brain it often. We can really focus on Mechaton for a little bit and then switch gears and focus on Frank for a little bit. But having the two different vibes, one allows us to really kind of explore different areas that we're curious about, because I don't just love Universal Horror Monsters and Conan. I also love giant robots and Godzilla and Ultraman. And as much as I would love to do giant robots with Frankenstein, I don't know. We'll see. So it kind of lets us stretch those muscles and maybe not get pigeonholed as just like the horror writers, because we've done a lot of horror leading up to Frankenstein, and Mechaton's a good like palate cleanser in a way that also allows us to talk to an audience that might not be interested in Frank, and also we get to work with Fernando Pinto on Mechaton, and the art on that is so dynamic and energetic, and it's just a different flavor that I love. It's nice to have a well-rounded palette, I think.
Now, did you find, considering, I don't know if you were listening to our conversation before we brought you on, but did you find it a little bit more difficult to market a all ages comic as opposed to how Frankenstein is doing?
Surprisingly, yes. I guess not so surprisingly if you're leading with, did you find it more difficult too? But yeah, no, we expected that. I think initially when we were first getting into it, that like, Mechaton is the obvious choice to lead with because everyone can get on board and everyone will really enjoy it. And while I still think that's true from just anyone could pick up and read it and really, really like it without a lot of necessarily a lot of genre knowledge or expectations going in, on a platform like Kickstarter, as it turns out, the more specific and niche you get with your genre, often the better you do. The all age, I think Mechaton is the kind of book that would do really, really well on a shelf. and is still like
in a book fair.
Yeah, in a book fair, or or in a library, or in a bookstore, or in a comic shop. And not that it's doing poorly on Kickstarter at all. We're really, really happy with its performance there, and we're super grateful to everyone that's come to back it. But I mean, it just takes one look at like the two campaigns to see Frankenstein tends to do better. And a big part of that is like kids and teenagers and the all ages market. Even though it is all ages, a lot of people automatically assume that means kids. But that audience isn't on Kickstarter. And you're not, as a parent, you're probably not going to buy a book like on something like Kickstarter thinking, oh, my kid would like that. You're probably doing it for you. So the more adult stuff tends to do better on this platform. But I wouldn't be surprised if you put them side by side on the shelf, Mechaton wound up doing better in the comic shop.
So have you had like that experience at conventions, or were these books you haven't brought these to conventions yet?
Oh, we bring them to conventions.
Right. Do you see a difference at conventions? What does better? Or
I think it's too early to tell right now, but it's been pretty equally split, if not favoring Mechaton.
Yeah, I've only had one convention where I've had both books, and Mechaton did better than Frank, honestly. Like we also have 2 issues of Mechaton opposed to Frank's 1, and so a lot of families will buy both issues of Mechaton, and Frank still did really well, but I think that hits more on the mainstream comic book fan aesthetic. The Wednesday Warrior, whereas Mechaton appeals more to that Smile club, that Dogman kind of fan, who would rather have like a whole tome and the bright colors and all. Yeah, it just appeals to that audience more, and so it doesn't surprise me that Frank's a better performer on Kickstarter. But they're both a lot of fun.
Right. So is I guess like is the next issue of Mechaton in the pipe somewhere?
Yes.
Or
Okay. Yes. We have 4 and 5 written up and fully edited and ready to go. And by that I mean like in script form. We're working on finishing up number 3 right now, and we're starting thumbnails for number 4. And we want to get a campaign up for number 4 and number 5 together at the beginning of next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So one last question about comparing the 2. So okay, so you have Frank preparing to put them on, the next issues on Kickstarter. Is there one particular thing that you look at one campaign and look at the other and go, okay, we have to do this for this, but this, like, is there any like a specific strategy you have to use on one but not the other?
The Not Safe for Work cover is pretty strong on Frank.
Yeah, so we can't employ that same kind of for lack of a better term, thirst trap on Mechaton. It's just not the book for it.
But we did learn a lesson from the Not Safe for Work cover in regards to Mechaton.
I think we're gonna not to weaponize it or anything, just to kind of give people what they want. I think that it's a book that leans a little bit more heavily into like nostalgia for like 80s and 90s cartoons, things like that, video games. So we want to experiment with like more video game covers, more covers that explore like that Transformers connection, things like that. And also there are a lot more out and loud like queer and non-binary characters in Mechaton. So we're thinking about doing a Pride cover for the next issue as well, just to see how people respond to that.
Right. Oh, so there you go. So there you go. So here we have these creators who have the all ages, they have Frankenstein, and it requires like 2 separate thought processes to be able to do these campaigns online. So thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing your book.
Absolutely.
And sharing your book. Like I said, anyone who's interested in the campaign, links are in the show notes below. Maybe I haven't.
They're in the groups. They're in the chat.
Find Frankenstein, the Unconquered. everywhere. So you have plenty of time, but why wait? Just get your pledge in.
We're about $120 away from our next stretch goal, so that would be really cool to be able to hit today.
There you go. So everybody knows what to do.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us where else everyone can find you aside from Kickstarter, of course?
Absolutely. I'll go first because his is easier. I'm most active on Twitter at WellsThomp, which is you can see down there. I have a website, wellsthompson.com. That'll connect you to kind of everything else that I do, and you can find all of my books and things that we sell together on ko-fi.com/WellsThompson. Ko-fi is Ko-fi if you're not familiar. We also have a newsletter, Comics, Cats, and Cocktails, where we talk about comics, cats, and cocktails. I have foster cats all the time, so I need a place to dump those pictures. So if you're into really snuggly cat photos, it's a great place to hang out. Plus, you get behind-the-scenes comics, like work in progress updates, stuff that we're working on, conventions that we're going to, recommendations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it for me. So, Dalton.
Yeah. And I share space on the Ko-fi with our books together, and I am on any social media that matters at Dalton K. Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, easy enough. So, like I said, thank you so much for coming on to the show, and it's like just continue rocking it because obviously, you got that down packed, that's for sure.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, absolutely, it was great.
So, Nita, any final words for our guests or just in general?
No, I just love the campaign, especially the not safe for work variant cover. That,
hell yeah!
Who would have thought?
We saw Flops' artwork and we just thought it was a natural fit for
absolutely. Yeah, so there you have it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat. Thank you, the 5 people who are watching us from the regions beyond. Thank you for spending this hour with us. And if you want to learn more about me and my comics, my upcoming campaigns, you can head on over to my main portfolio site at egoworks.com, EGOWORKS, where you can find links to all of my galleries and social media sites, but I mostly post to Facebook if you're into seeing sketches and current work in progress and all my other updates. And you can also find me on YouTube at my own channel at Daphne Lage Art, Lage, which also simulcasts through the Indie Comics Network. So again, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do everything to make the algorithm gods happy. You know how it goes. So, so like I said, we're not going to have a show on Friday, but we will be back on Monday, regular time. So it's like I said, we just have things to do. We have to do it. So you know what? The show just,
doesn't go on. The show doesn't go on.
The show doesn't go on. So there you have it. Everybody gets a day off.
No fucking random emails, please. Like, God, last time it was so weird. Daphne goes away for a week and people are like, "Oh my God, what happened?" Like seriously, we broke up. It's like, bro, no.
Look, no, we're just doing things. That's all. So, like I said, thank you again, and you guys all know what to do. Support all the campaigns that we featured here, on the whole thing. And from the words of the ancients, eat your food, moisturize, mind your business, and do the work. Because when you actually do the work, you never have to fake any of your accomplishments. And like I said, I don't understand how anybody would want to do that. But you know what? Look, it's worth it. Trust me, the work is worth it. So we'll see you next time.